The anti-Trump propaganda campaign by The Economist. Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we have a beautiful, cold, snowy day here in the Highlands. As somebody who focuses on propaganda, I just absolutely love to come here and expose propaganda, especially when this propaganda is harmful and very obvious, as is the case with The Economist. Now, The Economist is a solid name in Britain. It's obviously British and existed since the 19th century. They have been going around. And I have been a subscriber of The Economist for years, so much so that I have a vast collection of their previous publications. And this week, I was reading this one, which on the surface, it looks like it's talking about the relationship recession where people are no longer getting together, but they're dating AIs or choosing to be alone. Okay, no problem, right? And on the surface, on the cover, we see there seems to be nothing talking about Trump. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump, right? I don't agree with him 100%. I think there are things that he's not right. But to be honest, if Britain had a president or a prime minister like Trump, would be much better off than we are now. Why? Well, here are the things that I do agree with Trump. The fact that he takes a stand against illegal immigration. I'm against illegal immigration. The things he says about climate change. And a lot of other stuff. I mean, he's a businessman. He generated a lot of wealth to America, and that's great. I'm a businesswoman as well, so I support that. Actually, I find that businessmen are perhaps more intelligent and more useful to lead a country than politicians that haven't really done anything meaningful in their lives. Anyways, so now on to this edition. Right as you open on page 7, that you have a summary of this week in the world about politics. Right here at the bottom is talking about Donald Trump and the statement he gave about Nigeria. And it says, Donald Trump said that America's armed forces would take action in Nigeria to stop the mass slaughter of Christians by Islamic militants. Just one note here. It says mass slaughter with quotation marks, as if it's not true. Carries on saying that terrorist groups in Nigeria often target civilians, both Christians and Muslims. Now, this statement is not inherently wrong, but the problem is it's more Christians than Muslims, and it's because of their faith, which The Economist doesn't talk about it at all. But then on the last sentence is the real concern here, where it says, there's no evidence of a Christian genocide. So you're telling me that all the many footage, interviews, videos, documentaries, articles, everything written about the Christian genocide in Nigeria, the people that have spoken about it who are Nigerians, as a matter of fact, I had people commenting on my video talking about Nigerian genocide, people who are Nigerian and agreed with everything that I was saying, and they said, yes, this is true, this is happening. They decide to ignore all of this to simply try and dirt Trump's image as much as they could, okay? And how do you know this is clear propaganda? Because we have here, they're giving some statements. Straight away, you have the quotation marks, right? So your subconscious is already thinking this is not real. But then at the end, they add a sentence that is a factual sentence without being true. This is what we call in the intelligence community as black propaganda, an ultimate lie. But if you're somebody who is neutral to this, you don't know what's happening in Nigeria. You buy this edition of The Economist and you start reading. You might believe this is true. Okay, here is why it is so dangerous. As we continue looking through this week's edition, the article on the relationship recession is actually quite good, to be honest. But then it carries on to have some more climate change propaganda, because we all know that the renewable energy sources are definitely the way to go. Then it carries on. I'm not going to comment on that anyways, but it has even here a publication that Britain is bouncing back. No, it's not. Britain is at its worst state since the 1970s. So sorry to say, it's not bouncing back, at least not anytime soon with Labour in power. But okay, let's continue. We have some other interesting stuff. Bashing Nigel Farage. Yes, of course. Not to say that I agree with him, but I'm just against illegal immigration overall. Then we continue, and I want to show you the next interesting thing, which is right here. The pages about the Americas. Donald Trump is mulling regime change in Venezuela. For those of you who don't know what's happening in Venezuela, let me tell you as a South American myself. Venezuela is ruled by a dictator, and I know this because a lot of Venezuelans seek refuge in Brazil. Oftentimes, these people that seek refuge, they aren't entirely innocent engineers and doctors, they're actually criminals. I've had an uncle of mine who's a truck driver in the Amazon region. He got robbed by one of these Venezuelan people. Not to say that these people are bad, all of them, of course not, but what's happening in Venezuela is not what The Economist is trying to portray here. Let's take a look. I underlined some bits and pieces for us to comment because I couldn't believe what I'm reading right here. So it says, the Trump administration has redefined drug gangs as terrorists rather than criminals. Like, of course they're terrorists. They burn buses, they kill innocent people, They destroy and take control over entire territories and cities, as we have seen in Brazil with groups like the PCC and the Comando Vermelho, that as a matter of fact have now been considered as terrorist groups. And they have been infiltrated in 28 countries. So to the world, criminal drug gangs are seen as terrorists. Why? They commit terror. But to the economists, drug lords that commit terror are not terrorists. And that's what they're trying to make you, the reader, believe. And then, because they're saying that Trump wants to justify military force, I understand why he would want to do this. And I know it's a sensitive topic in Latin America for the reason that Latin America has always been a colony. I speak with knowledge about this because my PhD was looking at South America during the Cold War, and British intelligence, actually, what the British were up to in South America during the Cold War. But let me tell you, Latin America as a whole, South and Central Latin America, has always been a colony. Before that, they were a colony of European nations like Spain, Portugal, France, even Britain. And now, for the last 100 years or so, they have been a colony of the United States and most recently, China. So China's influence in Latin America, in South America, is huge. Of course, I understand that Trump is concerned about what's happening in Venezuela. So would I, because it's right there, very close to America. Mr. Rubio calls drug gangs like the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere. It's true because, as a matter of fact, countries like Brazil that have a high level of drug gangs, they're more dangerous and violent than the Middle East. They have more deaths happening than Iraq or Afghanistan. So yeah, Rubio is completely right. He continues saying that a YouGov poll last month found a plurality of Americans oppose military action in Venezuela. I don't understand, is this a British government poll? It must be, of course. I'm not even sure it's real anyways. And yeah, Latin Americans support the idea. Why? Because they are the ones that need to live in that constant violence. Okay, and now he goes here and says, if Venezuela is a terrorist state, why has the United States ended the temporary protected status of some 600,000 Venezuelan asylum seekers and sent some back to the narco-jihadists? Because Trump doesn't want terrorists in his own country. Bravo! Well done, Trump. I can't believe this is called journalism. This is a load of propaganda. And I mean, this is just this edition. I haven't read The Economist. I actually quit my subscription a year ago because I was tired of this. But just by coincidence, because I wanted to read about the relationships, I ended up buying this edition. I'm glad I did, because now I can expose this to the people and hopefully get them to stop reading The Economist. The cartel was accused of being, a foreign terrorist organization, blah, blah, blah. Missiles began raining down on alleged drug trafficking boats on September 2nd, and more than 60 people have been killed so far. Yeah, so Trump is mobilizing and there is military action happening there, which is also why the Brazilian president, who's a complete lefty, and also doesn't want to call the terrorists, he just wants to say that they're victims of society. He's also saying that if Trump does something because they're right in the border there with Brazil, that there will be a war. Like, come on, please. Maduro himself, the other day, when he realized that America could simply wipe out Venezuela from the map, started to sing Imagine by John Lennon.
Peace, peace, peace. Como decía John Lennon, ¿no? Imagine us people. Mira, su ojo de...
That is something. Mr. Trump's special envoy for the special missions led talks with Mr. Maduro and is said to favor diplomacy. Okay, Mr. Rubio, a former senator of Cuban descent, emphasizes restoring America's influence in the hemisphere. I know why he's saying this, and it's not to say that I agree 100%, but I do think that American influence might be better than Chinese influence. But that's just me. And the fact that the crime is rampant in Latin America means that you need some brute force to restore order to the continent. And then, of course, they have to add it right here that America's biggest asset is the unpopularity and illegitimacy of Mr. Maduro and his regime. I wonder why. Is it because he's a dictator who's starving his own people? Perhaps. Then the rest of the magazine just has some other stuff about China and Europe and whatever else. But the point here is this. 2 topics discussed on this edition of The Economist about serious crime activities that are happening in 2 different parts of the world, one being Africa with Nigeria and the other being Latin America with Venezuela and the drug gangs, shows to us that The Economist is completely biased and they want you to dislike Trump without giving the full facts. They want to portray this narrative of right is wrong and wrong is right. Everyone knows that somebody who commits drug crimes is a terrorist. So why would economists try to paint this as if they're simply victims of society? This is a complete leftist ideology, it's a complete leftist narrative, which is insane when you think about the fact that Britain is meant to be a beacon of Western civilization, of freedom and of law and respect and rule of the law. Instead, this is what we are seeing. So yes, even though I don't agree with everything that President Trump says, I like him. Yeah, I like him. The same way I like other figures that are bashed by Britain, like Putin. But I'm assuming that Britain just doesn't like anybody with a personality anyways. So yeah, Trump is right in what he's doing or what he's wanting to do in Nigeria and Latin America. Shame on you, economists. Cheap, untrue propaganda. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I wish you all a great day and see you next time.